What's up, everybody? Welcome to my YouTube channel where I do music reviews. My name is Aaron. Today we're checking out the new album Antibloom by Silverstein. This is the 12th studio album from the Canadian post-hardcore band, which is pretty impressive considering they've been around for about 25 years, forming in the year 2000. And while honestly I don't really care for all of their discography, they've managed to be fairly consistent. This is also the shortest album they've released so far, being only 8 songs long and roughly 22 minutes or so. And that's because this is part 1 of a double album. Part 2, titled Pink Moon, will be out later this year. And I loved their last album, Misery Made Me. It was a good mixture of old school and new school Silverstein. It was really nostalgic while also showing off their more mature side with some modern songwriting and also themes. It was a move in the right direction from A Beautiful Place to Drown, which I understand I'm probably in the minority of saying this was probably the worst Silverstein album I've heard. It just felt like a scattered mess with no clear direction or thought, and it made me kind of lose hope in the band. But then Misery Made Me restored that hope. It made me more excited for any new music while at the same time realizing that everything they do isn't necessarily going to be perfect. For example, the first single they released for Antibloom was Skin and Bone, which took quite some time for it to really grow on me. It was a little too radio friendly for my preference. When I first heard it, I wasn't that excited. I felt like they were kind of selling out a little bit, going the more mainstream route, which I mean, Silverstein isn't really that far off, but they had their own sound, and I feel like Skin and Bone doesn't really show it off all that well, but the more you listen to it, the more you really do hear that they have their own sound within the song. But for me, the song didn't really hit until you understand the meaning of it, which Shane said it's about the tragic murder of his ex-girlfriend, who was one of the most amazing people he's ever known. And knowing this made the interlude in the bridge just so much more powerful for me. The emotion that's communicated is beautiful. The song is just so full of life. And then they released the second single, titled Confession, which turned me off for kind of the same reason. It just sounds a little too bland. It's a great pop punk jam, but it just feels too familiar. The hook and the melody and the chorus is something that I feel like has been done so many more times, but they didn't really throw a twist on it or anything. It just sounds like the typical pop punk kind of hook with that kind of melody. The bridge is just the pre-chorus, but it sounds like it's underwater. I felt like this one, it is just a radio play song, and felt like it just didn't have anything really deep for at least me personally to grab onto for it to really hit. So it's just, I don't know. This one I felt like it was more of a sellout kind of thing. And the final single they released, Don't Let Me Get Too Low, won me right back over. Honestly, the intro isn't too promising, but the verses remind me a lot of Sum 41 in their older days, and it sounds so freaking great. And the pre-chorus sounds fantastic as well. The heavy riff and the melody are kind of predictable, but at the same time, it's so easy to fall in love with. The chorus is relatable to anybody who knows just how consuming depression can be. And then if we go to the track before it, which is also the opening song, Mercy Mercy, which is a super heavy jam, and it gets you pumped up. And again, in this song, the pre-chorus is phenomenal. The aggression is right in your face with growly vocals and a fat riff. The chorus isn't quite as impactful, but the lead melody hiding out in the background sounds really good. Unfortunately, the pre-chorus never comes back around again, but it does have a really cool interlude followed by a dark breakdown that kind of ends things off in a menacing kind of way that I kept going back to because I just wanted to hear it again and again. Then we have one of the more obscure songs, not just on this album, but I feel like this band has ever written, titled A Little Fight. It is a minute and a half long, and it seems to be inspired by the song Take Me On, at least in the first half of it. It builds up to a solid rock song though about halfway through. I Will Destroy This shows off the band's hardcore side a little bit more. The verses were alright. Honestly, I feel like they just reused the third single, Don't Let Me Get Too Low. The verses are very similar and the chorus is the same kind of vibe. To me, because of this, it was kind of boring. The bridge is really fiery, and honestly, it's not a bad song. It sounds like they copied it. It sounds like they copied themselves. Like they had two of the same kind of riff and idea, and they decided to make it into two different songs instead of changing one up more than the other. And it just feels like you're hearing the same song that you heard about 3 songs ago. Then we have the song Stress, which changes things up Again, it starts off with a really fierce chorus that catches your attention right away. The verses have a sick bass line and the drums sound great. I know that this isn't like genre groundbreaking kind of stuff, but for Silverstein, I feel like this is a really good metalcore inspired song. And then that brings us to the closing track, Cherry Coke, which is the slow song on the album. It ends things on kind of a somber note. It dives into the theme of depression once again, just a little bit deeper. I gotta say, it's not my favorite song on this album, and I feel like it's more of a transitional song compared to like a song that would have closure to it, ending the album off. But I think that part 2 would help that a lot. I think that once part 2 comes out, part 1 is going to make a little bit more sense, and because of that, I'm going to give it a little bit more credit. I found this to be a pretty solid album. Sure, it's all over the place, but it still just kind of works. The opening song, Mercy Mercy, and of course the single Don't Let Me Get Too Low are absolute bangers, and despite this not really having anything that really sticks out a whole lot or anything that makes me want to keep going back to and listening to over and over again, I feel like Silverstein managed to do what they do very well, which is combine really heavy sections to pop punk hooks and choruses, and they do it beautifully. The only issue I really have with this album is that it's more like an EP. It's 8 songs, 22 seconds long, and I feel like it's more of a collection of songs rather than like something that's pieced together to tell a story. It doesn't really flow quite all that well, and I feel like it's because it's missing part 2. I feel like part 2 would really complete this, and I feel like it would have been worth the wait to release it and get, you know, a 45-minute album instead of 2 separate albums. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like this just doesn't really stand that well on its own. And because of that, I gotta give Antibloom by Silverstein a 6.6 out of 10. I want to know what you guys think. I have a feeling that a lot of people are going to disagree with me on this one, and that's totally fine. Leave a comment below letting me know what you thought of Antibloom. Let me know what you would rate it and what your favorite song is. Also, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like. It helps out so much with YouTube's algorithm, and it will keep my videos popping up in your recommended section. And also, if you want to support me further than that, you don't want to miss out on any of my future reviews or even New Music Fridays, don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell icon. And just thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day to listen to me sit here and talk about music. I appreciate you more than you could ever imagine. And I hope you have a good rest of your day or night whenever you happen to be watching this. And I will talk to you guys next time.